Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This week I'm planning with this kit from Alyssa craft shop called Fall. I got the headers, I got the floral deco because you know I'm on that deco kick now. The first page has these full boxes. This is in rose gold foil. With the kit reformat, so many box options, love it. And then the date covers in washi. So yeah, let's get into it. So I'm going to continue my trend that I started last week. Is it a trend if you do something once? I don't know. I'm going to continue my pattern that I'm just now starting of doing a few more get to know me type questions. It's been a pretty stressful week at work. So if I sound a little bit tired, that's what it is. Yeah, it has been a week. Yeah, it has been a week. That's all I can say. So I'm working down the list of questions. I got these questions off of a 100 questions to get to know someone, a random Google search. But the question that I have sort of coming up is, what was the last thing that you read? So there are a couple of answers to this because I'm kind of currently in the middle of reading something. So I'll say what I'm in the middle of reading and then what the last thing was that I finished reading. So I'm in the middle currently of reading two books. I'm reading House of Leaves by Mark Danielewski. It's a pretty kind of creepy, scary book. So that's why I'm kind of going really slowly with it. I didn't realize it was as well known as it is. I've heard some people referring to it on podcasts that I've listened to, and I was like, wow, I didn't know a lot of people read this book. But on the podcast that I was listening to where I heard them talking about it, they said that there are parts where you have to read with a mirror. I'm just like, what? I haven't gotten to those parts yet. Pretty much what happens is I'll start reading this book, and then my boyfriend will come over for dinner right when I'm reading a really scary part, and I'll open the door. He'll open the door, I'll get freaked out, and then I have to put it away for a few days. So it's going very slowly. The second thing I'm in the middle of reading is Dune. I am in a two-person book club with said boyfriend, and we actually read to each other aloud. This is a very cheesy idea, but it is kind of weird with a book like Dune because there's a lot of made-up words and place names in there, so we're kind of just winging our way through the pronunciation, and sometimes he'll read things out loud and pronounce them, and I'm like, can you spell that? Because I really have no idea what this word even looks like. So we'll read aloud to each other and talk about it. Occasionally, if we don't have time to talk about it, we'll read aloud to each other, and then I will, or he will, we'll both read it privately. So when I actually read the book, when it's not my turn to read aloud and I read in the book and see the words, I can be like, oh, that's why he pronounced it this way. So those are two things I'm in the middle of reading right now. The last thing I finished reading was a collection of H.P. Lovecraft stories. H.P. Lovecraft, famous horror writer. I'm big into kind of scary books, which is funny because sometimes they're so scary I scare myself and then I can't read them, again, in the case of House of Leaves. But that was the last thing I finished reading. I've been reading through a few Stephen King prior to that. I think the last thing I read from Stephen King was Full Dark, No Stars. I'm also reading, this is very weird, please don't judge me for this, but I'm reading through this wiki called the Scp Wiki. It's basically what amounts to a crowdsourced set of kind of creepy stories that people write online in the format of this organization that helps contain creepy stuff on Earth. It's very weird. It's a community source kind of writing project, but I think it's cool just for that reason because you can contribute an article, anyone can contribute. So it's kind of crowdsourced writing. So that was the last thing that I read. Would you say you're more of an extrovert or an introvert? So definitely an introvert, I would say, but that actually surprises a lot of people because a large part of my job involves kind of speaking and relationship building. So You all know that my field is research, and part of research is presenting results to people, crafting a story, and really understanding stakeholder needs, understanding like research participants' needs. So I have to kind of be in the business of like building relationships with people, especially participants, building relationships with them quickly. So often in my work, when I used to be a researcher and not a manager, I would have to meet someone, in pandemic times, often over Zoom, and like get to know them and build rapport with them pretty quickly before I start asking them questions about what they think. So I've had to kind of practice getting out of my introvert shell. But the reason I say I am an introvert is that it takes energy from me to get into these interactions. Like, it's not energy building, it's energy kind of depleting. So I do, enjoy hanging out with friends, and I do enjoy, hanging out with coworkers and meeting new people, but it does take energy away from me, and I often have to retreat and recharge. In my current role, I do a lot of meetings, and it's very kind of energy depleting. That's part of the reasons why, work feels so stressful, is that I have a lot of face-to-face time and I don't get any downtime to recover. So I'm 100% an introvert. I've taken a bunch of the kind of personality tests, especially those at work. If you all have done like a, kind of corporate assessment, the DISC assessment, I'm a CD style in the DISC assessment, which is about kind of being critical, judging, taking time to think through things. I've taken the Myers-Briggs, and I'm an INTJ, the I on that obviously being introvert. All of these things, I don't necessarily kind of live my life by them, but when I think again of what gives me energy, what takes away energy, it's quiet time to think, reflective time alone really gives me energy, and time with others kind of depletes it. What's your favorite ice cream topping? I would definitely say rainbow sprinkles. The reason for this, I think, is because I grew up in New York City, and in New York, I don't know how it is in other places other than like places I've lived, like North Carolina and California, but in New York, there are these trucks called the Mr. Softee ice cream trucks. And the Mr. Softee ice cream trucks basically, roll around town dispensing ice cream. They play this really distinct jingle, and we would run outside to get ice cream when we heard the Mr. Softee ice cream truck jingle. And so what I always used to get at Mr. Softee was vanilla ice cream with rainbow sprinkles. And that is, having that has been some of my like fondest childhood memories of like, oh my God, this is so delicious. You enjoy it with your siblings. As a matter of fact, I was in New York in June, to visit my mother and sister. And at my big age, in my early 30s, I ran outside to get ice cream because, it's just what you do. So rainbow sprinkles are my favorite. I am very much a soft serve ice cream person rather than other types of ice cream or ices. In California, there's this chain called Rita's. I actually think it's everywhere. I'm not gonna say it's just California, but I have seen them. I don't know if I've seen them on the East Coast. That's a lie. I have seen them in Maryland. Okay, so I think they're a nationwide chain, Rita's, but they do soft serve, and I love their soft serve. So good, and the rainbow sprinkles are great. What was the last TV show you binge watched? Okay, I really don't like the term binge watch. I just think it's weird. I don't, I hate that term. It's not great. But the last TV show that I watched kind of all the way through is Dark on Netflix. And watched and in binge watching kind of like sat down and watched a bunch in one sitting. Dark is just like House of Leaves in that it would get too scary for me for a little while and I'd have to back up. I mean, if you've ever seen Dark, it's a very heavy show. Like the themes and what goes on is very kind of heavy. I mean, like the name would suggest too, the coloring is very dark. So I'd say probably 2 or 3 darks in a row in a night I could watch, and then I'd have to take a break and watch like a palate cleanser. So Dark was the last show. My boyfriend and I watched Blown Away, which is a reality glass blowing competition show on Netflix. We were into that pretty intensely. Otherwise, actually, we would usually watch movies. We're not really big into sitting down and watching a ton of shows. He's watching his way through Breaking Bad right now on his own. And I'm like, dude, you are years behind the rest of us, but let me know when you get to this season or whatever so we can talk about it. What was your favorite age growing up? This is a hard one to answer. I don't know if others have an age where they were like, oh my gosh, this was my favorite age. I feel like I have not really ever had that experience of having that thought consciously, so it's hard to say. I mean, I've had years where they were really easy and years that they were really rough. I would say, there's a couple that come to mind. So high school was a really good time for me in a lot of respects. I'd say probably the last 2 years of high school, so junior and senior year, in part because I had friends in classes above and below me, and it really felt obviously you're going to school to learn. You're getting ready for college, applying to college, all of that is really stressful, and that was stressful on me. But it felt like I went to school and I just saw my friends. I was surrounded by my friends. I never was anywhere where I didn't have a friend that was nearby or saw someone in the hallway that was like, hey, I just felt like I, knew a lot of people. I was very accepted in the community. I had lots of friends across different, I was in a lot of different friend groups. So it just felt like you were among people that you knew, who liked you. I mean, I should say that I went to an all-girl high school. I might have said that before in one of my Plan With Me's, but and of course in high school, you have your fights with your friends. I think everyone has gone through this, but I would say on the whole, it was I came to school, I did my work, I came home, it was a good time. I saw my friends at school, we texted each other, we saw each other on Monday, we would sometimes see each other at parties on the weekend. Being in an all-girls school, we had sometimes parties with all boys schools. So you'd be getting ready for that. You'd be trying to figure out your outfits. I don't know. It was just different than now as an adult where getting together with someone, especially in pandemic times with your friends, is just you got to schedule and reschedule. People have things come up. They have family in town. They have children. It's just different. You know what I mean? I think in high school and college, you're around people that are kind of all in the same place as you, more or less. And that definitely changes when you're an adult. I mean, it's natural, So I'd say high school ages, that was 15, 16, 17. I mean, I'm probably, looking at this with rose-colored glasses a little bit because, it's hard too, being a teenager. It's a hard time. You're figuring out who you are. I'd say that my identity changed in high school from one year to the next. I was really goth. I was really preppy. I was really, very casual, wearing sweatpants all the time. You went through a lot of changes, but again, I was surrounded by my friends in a way that I don't think I have been since. So yeah, teenage, pre-college, that was my favorite age. The last one, since I see that I am running out of time, is what was the best vacation you ever took and why? It's a toss-up between when my family and I went to the Bahamas and the first time I ever went to Maui. So my family and I went to the Bahamas, I think it was for a Thanksgiving Day vacation, Thanksgiving kind of week vacation because we were there for a few days. It was really fun. We were all together. I'm not really a beach person, but we all hung out. But we went to the Bahamas and they still keep a lot of their British traditions. And so we got to have high tea. The hotel was really nice. My mom had gotten a reservation, I think, because one of her friends worked there. So we were in a really nice suite. It was just a good time. And I hadn't planned on going. It was my first year of grad school and I was kind of grumpy and I was like, I'll just stay here. And I kind of went at the last minute and it ended up being really fun. The first time I went to Maui, it was great. I had never been to Hawaii before. And so it was just so temperate and, warm, but not hot. I really felt like I was on vacation because it was 3 hours behind even Pacific time. You know, and most of my family being on the West Coast, I'm used to being, you know, behind or, you know, behind times and feeling very luxurious when I go and visit them and sleeping in really late. So like, it was just a really nice experience. I mean, Hawaii was beautiful. The water was so clear. So yeah, those were my 2 favorite vacations. I am at the end of this video. Hopefully you enjoyed this get to know me a little bit. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to click like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!